everybody, this is your guy Gershon, and today we're going to be talking about UFC 251 on Fight Island. That's coming up this weekend, Saturday, July 11th. I'm super excited, and I can't wait to talk about these fights. Now, in case you don't know, UFC has definitely been putting on some really great events during all this COVID situation. No audience, but with some really, really clear Fight of the Year candidates, right? Now, I'm very excited about this because we have 3 title fights on this card. And honestly, any one of those could be a main event by itself on its own pay-per-view. So I can't wait to get into it. Today we're going to not necessarily just make predictions, but we're going to be talking about what the keys to victory for each fighter in there would go, and maybe where we think it's going to lean. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first fight in the main card is in the women's strawweight division. That is going to be against Amanda Ribas and Paige Van Zandt. Now, what's really cool about this fight is that you really get a chance to see Amanda Ribas. She's on like a 2-fight tear right now, very dominating performance. Paige Van Zandt hasn't fought since January 2019, and she beat Rachel Ostovich in that. But I believe there's a very big difference between the competition that they've really fought. And when it comes to top-tier strikers, Paige Van Zandt has had a hard time with that. You've seen that with Rose Namajunas, and most of her defeats actually come from submissions. That's a big problem because Amanda Ribas is great standing up. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and she's a black belt in judo, which means she has no problem keeping it standing. She can get you to the floor, and once you're down there, it's still her world. So if I have to kind of lean towards a direction, I would definitely lean towards someone who has all the momentum and seems to be more well-rounded, and that would be Amanda Ribas. The next fight is also in the strawweight division for the women. Now, what's really cool about this is it's a rematch between Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade. Now, Jessica Andrade definitely won the last fight via TKO. However, if you watch the entire fight, you know that Jessica was not winning that entire fight. It was definitely Rose Namajunas picking her apart, keeping her distance, and just being an all-around just better striker in terms of, or at least I'll say in that style. When it came to Jessica Andrade, she wound herself very tight and she depends on a lot of power. But Rose Namajunas wasn't keeping still enough for her to do it. However, her undoing came when she got caught trying to do a submission, and she didn't let go when Andrade picked her up and she slammed her on her neck. That led to the TKO victory. However, largely, she was winning that fight up until that mistake. So, if I have to think about it, Jessica Andrade afterwards went to go fight Zhang Weili, and she fought pretty much the same exact way, except Zhang Weili just beat her at that game. So if I'm going to think that Jessica Andrade is going to come in there different against Rose Namajunas, I wouldn't bet on it. I would think that they probably have still the same advantages and disadvantages, so I would probably lean towards Rose Namajunas, so I'm thinking I'm going to lean towards Rose Namajunas to win this fight. The next fight between Peter Yan and Jose Aldo in the bantamweight division is something that really excites me because this is only the second fight that Jose Aldo has had in the bantamweight division. The first was against Marlon Moraes, which he did not win in terms of the judges, but a lot of people who watched it did say that Jose Aldo definitely took that fight from Marlon, but it is what it is. However, Henry Cejudo, back when he was still fighting, did notice it and wanted to fight Jose Aldo instead of Marlon, obviously because he beat Marlon decisively already. However, Henry vacated the title, and UFC has still went with that to go and let Jose Aldo get that title shot. Now, it's great because Jose Aldo is still a technical wizard when it comes to stand-up. Peter Yan is still scary because he has great timing and he knows how to cut off the octagon very well. That's what he does. He cuts off the octagon, and once you're up against the cage, his timing turns up. He gets his head away from his punches, so like his head is never behind his punches, and he has awesome timing, great elbows, great spinning attacks as well. Just very, very powerful. But something very interesting to add to this is the fact that Jose Aldo and Peter Yan have trained before in Novo União, so there's some familiarity here. And according to that, somebody's training partner, Jose Aldo was definitely getting the better of him. Now, that was before Peter Yan is where he is now, so you can't take that with a grain of salt. Like, that is, just because that happened, it doesn't mean it's going to happen right now. However, just looking at the eye test, one is still more proficient than the other in terms of overall stand-up skills, but it's not like Peter Yan is without technique. He is excellent. He's very excellent. I think that Jose Aldo cannot get hit by him too many times. Like, he has that one-hit power, where Jose Aldo can let it accumulate, and if he outspeeds him, Petr Yan is going to have a very long night or short night possibly. So I'm going to say, based off experience and technique, I'm going to go with Jose Aldo. This next fight we're going to talk about is actually the second rematch on this main event card, main card actually, would be Max Holloway versus Alex Volkanovski for the featherweight title. So the last match, Max actually lost his title to Alex. And how did that happen? Honestly, it ties directly into Alex's keys to victory, which would be leg kicks, leg kicks, leg kicks. Just keep that whole match. It was actually kind of one-sided because it's one thing for a person to be able to implement leg kicks into their plan and, you know, have some success with it. But it was literally available from start to finish. And Max just kind of switched legs. He didn't really check it. And he tried to check the leg kicks by kind of like trying to volume his way in, try to do a 1-2, which, you know, and I would say from third round and on, he picked it up some more. But he never stopped Max never stopped Alex from being able to deliver those leg kicks the way that he did. So I believe if Alex stays with that game plan, make sure that when if Max comes charging in, that he is giving those little short hooks like he was giving, and even threaten a takedown, which, like the shorter fighter, his center of gravity is going to be lower, so when it comes to getting a takedown, it'll be a lot easier on something. But obviously, Max's takedown defense is really, really high. It's really, really high. Like, it's not easy to take him down, right? Especially because he's very good at getting his back to the cage and stopping it. Also, Max Holloway, we already know he's a volume monster, and if he decides to close the distance and get kind of in and out, 1-2, get out, so get within the leg, so get inside of like the leg kick area, get those hits off, and then back up and keep starting it over and over again, because Max Holloway has awesome cardio. I think that's a way that he could get it done as well. And you never know. What if he does get taken down and then he gets a submission? You never know, because Max Holloway has submitted people before. So, but I'm going to lean towards Alex Volkanovski, because like I believe his game plan, and seeing what I saw last time, I mean, obviously it can go different here, but I'm going to predict Alex takes it again in this match. Next and last fight I'm going to go over is the main event, the one that we all wanted, glad we got, and almost didn't get, Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman for the welterweight championship. Now, what's really cool about this fight is that there are very, very stark different ways for these fighters to win, right? Like, the keys to their victory are going to be very, very different. So let's start with Kamaru Usman, who was just coming off of his victory versus Colby Covington. He finished him with a TKO. That fight was all standing up, right? So this fight cannot be had the same way. He can't do that same thing with Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal doesn't throw at 30% like Colby. Colby is all volume. He just wants to just keep on tapping you, keep on doing that over and over and over again. And he peppered in a couple of power shots, but it's not like what Jorge would do, right? So he can't sit there and stand up with him the whole time. I think his key to victory will be to establish control via his grappling. And we've seen him do this many times, from backing a person up all the way to the cage and then just scooping them off their feet. He likes when they're back into the cage so he can just grind them out there. So that'd be a big key. Now, he is an accomplished wrestler, which means he should be able to do that even in the middle of the ring. However, the safe bet is to use his size, right? Now, he is the bigger and stronger guy. Now, obviously, when it comes to striking, being the bigger and stronger guy doesn't necessarily mean much, right? I mean, look at Stylebender, right? That's my guy. You know, he says it all the time. Everyone thinks that because if you're big. So, no, that's not the case. The whole point is that advantage that he has is perfect for grappling. So, him wrapping his arms around Jorge Masvidal at the size that he is would not be a good thing for Jorge, but that'd be a great thing for Kamaru. Now, moving on to Jorge, what would Jorge's keys to victory be? Now, it'd be the inverse of that, which is keeping his back off the cage and keeping it in the center of the ring, and kind of being a berserker but like an educated one, which he is. You saw that in the Nate Diaz fight. Like, he wasn't just throwing and not landing. He was throwing ferociously, and even getting a sense that whenever Nate was going to turn and bend and maybe even tried to shoot, he actually met Nate with a head kick, like a really fast head kick, and he kind of anticipated. He's very good. He's an experienced fighter, so when it comes to stand up, he understands what body movements mean, which is why I'm hoping that Jorge is not going to try and out wrestle Kamaru. I think he knows that's not the thing, but if Mike Brown prepared him enough to just stop a takedown, to stop that and keep the fight standing up, it's going to be very dangerous for Kamaru, because that's not a person he wants to sit up there and keep the fight standing up. Kamaru definitely needs a slower pace, because he can do it all night, or just a steady pace. Maybe not slower, but steady, right? Because he's not a berserker. He can last for 5 rounds. Now, Jorge, I don't know what kind of training. I'm not going to talk about how much training he is, how much in shape, because we don't know. He's the only person that really knows. But clearly, there is a way for him to win, and that is keeping it standing and really barraging him and showing him like his real stand-up prowess. Now, I get it's very hard to make a prediction here because it all depends on who plays the game. So I won't really make much of a prediction. However, I will say that I can understand why the betting odds are on Kamaru, only because when you have a wrestler, wrestlers can decide whether it stays standing up, and that's the constant threat. Like, if you don't know whether I'm gonna throw the overhand right or I'm gonna shoot, and that's why a lot of people are betting towards Kamaru Usman. But I wouldn't count Jorge Masvidal out because it's a fight, and if you play the other person's game, you will lose. That's pretty obvious. All right. Well, honestly, I can't wait for this fight card to go. I'm ready for Saturday. I got all my junk food and all that ready to go and get. So make sure you tune in there. If you got ESPN Plus as well. After this pay-per-view, for the next 3 weeks, is going to be some really good fight nights, and I'm going to do some videos about those as well, because there are some really good cards coming up on Fight Island. All right. Now, if there's anything that you disagree with, write in the comment. If you're like, hey, I think this guy should have won for this, and blah blah. Let's talk about that. Let's have a whole discussion about it. Anyway, just enjoy this Fight Island. Into the nerd.